Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come join this session. So the aim of this session is basically looking at just quick steps which one can use to be able to do benchmarking and analytical reports utilizing the Clarivate resource, which is called Insights. So, just off the bat, this is a resource that is available for entities which subscribe to it. So it's a resource, or it's a portal that institutions buy, and then once your institution has access to it, it then is made available institutional wide. So every person that has got the IP access to the institutional databases or institutional resources can then access this content. So let's just jump into it. We don't have much time, so I'm gonna skip some formalities and just start sharing my screen. And please feel free throughout the presentation um, to pose your questions on the Q&A or to just pose them on the chat box. We will look at them. I'm going to start with a static presentation on a PowerPoint just to give us a background on what data is utilized, as well as what are the principles that are applied in the solution in Clarivate Insights to be able to pull through analytics. Right. Okay. So in terms of how Clarivate puts together the data, and when we look at benchmarking and analytics, what is the source of the data that we are basically looking through? And the source of the data is the science citation expanded, social sciences, arts and humanities citation, emerging sources, conference proceeding, as well as book citations. So Clarivate is a publisher neutral service provider that consists of multiple journals that are published across multiple disciplines, as well as multiple topics, and internationally as well, globally as well. So so far, the Web of Science database is still the core collection, which Clarivate Insights Analytics pulls its data from. So that's in a nutshell. So as long as your authors are contributing to any of these citation databases that are indexed in the Web of Science, as well as, and I'm just going to mention, they are also part of the DHET accredited list. So the Web of Science is part of the DHET accredited list. So as long as that publication is included on the Web of Science, then we will be able to evaluate that publication. So that is the source data. And Clarivate includes quite a powerful citation network of references, of links between different topic areas, catalytic niche areas, and multiple areas that actually share pathways within the research landscape. And with that said, just to look at multiple levels of data that is currently included. So Insights has got multiple ways in which you can pull your data and you can be able to analyze your data. Today's context is just looking at the evaluation of an organization. So on the left-hand side, which is where I'm going to start, when you log on to the platform, and as I've mentioned, if your institution subscribes to the platform, you should be able to access insights from either your A to Z list of your institution, and then you go to a subset called Insights, and you will be presented with these options just after logging in. So you will be presented with Analyze, Report, and Organize. I'm going to come into the detail of that. So if you went into Analyze, which is the first option that comes on the far left-hand side, is you've got multiple facets of data that you can analyze. You've got research, organization, locations, research areas, publications, and databases. And depending on your context in which you want to do your analysis, you will then select the relevant facet that you want to analyze. And then we also have reports. So under reports, you will have organization report, research report, department report, and publisher reports. So the main differences between the two aspects of reports as well as analyze. With analyze, you will select the data sets. You would also select the data components that you would like to compare for yourselves. Whereas with reports, there are certain preset reports that you can actually look into, and I will share that as mentioned. So if you've got another layer of the solution, which is called MyOrg, Insights MyOrg, then you are also able to do a deep dive into institutional evaluations and departmental evaluations. And that is available for entities that have initiated the MyOrg subscription. Now, in terms of the data that we are looking at or that we will be able to delve into, we are able to look at regional affiliations. So, for example, I'm able to look at Southern Africa or South Africa institution. We're able to filter by organization type, collaboration network. So collaboration network is typically a network where if I'm coming from University of Johannesburg, I will be able to analyze the collaboration which authors that are affiliated with Johannesburg University collaborate with the most. And depending on whether I want to see an exhaustive list or a summary of what that looks like, I've got a couple of options of navigating through that. And there's also organizational affiliation. So if I'm only looking to see certain entities in relation to how our institution collaborates with them, I'm able to do that as well. Then there's article identifiers, author identifiers, number of documents, document types, funding agencies, as well as publication name. So you can actually be able to delve into certain funders where you can say funding agencies. And this is quite useful if you're trying to identify funding agencies that you can approach for your projects. So if you've got a particular project and you want to identify similar research that was funded, then you can be able to delve into that level of detail on Insights. You're also able to see open access publications as well as publisher types. So if you want to identify publishers that are quite high in terms of their research output in a specific topic, you can be able to do that by analyzing publishers. Then other data is references cited, and this is also available through the Web of Science. Some of the aspects that I'm touching on is available on the Web of Science as well. So this is just essentially some of the data sets and components of what you could combine your reports to be able to reflect on the Web of Science. Now, in terms of looking at so we've shared what data we're looking into. Now we need to talk a little bit on how the matrix are calculated. What is the calculations, or how does the bibliometric counts work on Insights before we actually delve into the reports. Now, we need to bear in mind as well that when we do benchmarking and analysis, we ought to be cautious that we are comparing apples with apples. And for example, when we compare multiple faculties or multiple research areas, it needs to be in the context of what are the drivers of that particular area. So for example, when we want to compare social sciences and hardcore sciences, we need to be very cautious and be aware that just in terms of general matrix of citation count, these two industries do not necessarily experience the same citation levels. So we need to look at impact. So impact, when we look at impact, we're looking at the impact of either the top first documents, we're looking at impact based on documents cited, we're looking at impact based on the year in which accumulatively that particular paper has been cited. And we're also looking at H-index. So this is the terminology that we can utilize, or some of the indicators that we can utilize in evaluating impact. Now, in terms of productivity, specifically looking at the numbers in a pure form, then we're looking at number of Web of Science documents, meaning number of documents that have been produced from that institution. And we also can count number of times which those documents have been cited. And then we need to look at the normalized matrix. So normalized matrix is basically, even though we're comparing multiple research areas, we try and arrive at creating common denominators so that we can be able to compare them responsibly. And the word here is responsibly. So in this case, I'm not going to delve into what goes into normalization, but these are the indicators if you want to see the normalized matrix. And you want to normalize if you want to do a comparison across multiple fields, right? And you want to make sure that you are being fair to each field in terms of the citation output. And then collaborations, you can be able to look at collaborations internationally by industry as well. And you can also look at by affiliation. And then on the Insights database, we've got multiple open access indicators or multiple open access types that you can be able to filter through. And author evaluation, you can filter through whether you want to pick up records where your institution authors are the first author or they are the corresponding author. You can look at journal citation report matrix. So on the journal citation report matrix, we're looking at purely the journal output. Okay, so we're looking at quartiles, we're looking at article influence, the immediacy indicators, which is essentially within the first 2 years, how often was that particular journal cited. We're looking at 5-year impact factor of the journal. And then we've got the ESI metrics. The ESI essentially looks at papers that are, it's called emerging sources citation. So in this subset, we're comparing papers that have been produced in the past 2 years, which bibliometrics basically starts evaluating papers after 2 years. So anything prior to 2 years, then that will be evaluated under ESI. So colleagues, this is just some of the indicators that are available on Insights. As I said, today's focus will be looking at making sure that we do organization evaluation. Now, part of the rules in terms of using publications and citation as an analysis is the fact that you should consider that data, what type of data can address a particular question. So before I actually go into the portal and pull data, I need to understand what question am I trying to answer? And that will guide me towards what type of data or what type of metrics and indicators do I want to include. I'm not going to delve into the entire slide, but just make sure that what's more important is make sure that you obtain multiple measurements when you are looking at a particular aspect. So, for example, in one field, an H index of 35 might actually be low if you compare it holistically within other researchers of that field. Whereas in another field, an H index of 7 could be extremely high, just based on how analytics is happening within that field. So you need to be very objective in measurements and making sure that you present a holistic picture that is congruent and consistent with the matrix that has been applied specifically in bibliometrics, because there are multiple matrix out there. There's Altmatrix, but just in the context of the Web of Science, we use bibliometrics. Okay, so I'm going to do a few examples on how you could do your own benchmarking of your organization, and I'm going to be sharing just quick methods of being able to arrive at some level of analyzing. We know that you are bombarded with a whole lot of systems and databases. So, making it easy for you to navigate portals and systems is our highest priority. Okay. Please feel free to ask any questions. Is there any questions so far?
Nothing in the chat box or the Q&A box so far. Thanks, Aneli.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to try and share again. Okay. So as indicated prior, so just logging into the system, I've already populated my credentials. So from an institutional point of view, you will be presented with a logging in, and then you can go in and sign in into your individual account. So signing into your individual account will basically assist you in being able to create shortcuts and create what we call dashboards of reports that you run on a consistent basis. And if you don't want to have to rerun those reports again, you can create dashboards. And that's a topic that we can look into some other time. So as I mentioned, you've got the analyze feature, and the analyze feature, I can go into organizations. And with the analyze feature, I can select the data sets or the facets of information that I want to look into. So in this case, I will be presented with all the institutions, all the organizations. Let's just come back again. And if I'm interested in just typing in my organization name, then I'll just say, okay, I'm looking for my institution, which is Johannesburg. And I'm looking for University of Johannesburg, and I will select the institution of my choice and then populate that, and that will be fine. So in this case, or in this method, I go into analyze, I go into organization, and I've got all these different facets or all these different filters that I can select, okay, in order for me to do my analysis. So the results presented here will be based on the filtering that I select. So I can say I'm looking for only open access papers, and I can even go ahead and select the open access type, and I'll say I'm looking for all open access update results. So essentially, I'm removing all the publications that are not open access. And my time frame is by default the last 5 years. Okay, so I can change that, and I can also change the data set that I want to include. I can also change the indicators in this case. So we talked a little bit about indicators, the impact indicators, the collaboration indicators, etc. And then some baselines. Some baselines is basically you can add a country baseline. This really works well if you're trying to do an analytical view to see in terms of internationally, where are we compared to the other entities. So this is where you go ahead and select you select the organization, and you also have an option of visualizing your data still. So in this case, the default was a table visualization, and we can go into visualize, and visualize will give me in this case, I've got a map, so I can look at it from a bar graph, just to look at my research output over a period of time. Then I can see, okay, this is over this time, and this is based on time cited. This is the number of documents cited. I can change that to indicate documents. So number of Web of Science documents, and then I will be able to see the number of Web of Science documents for University of Johannesburg over the period. At this point, I'm just showing a maximum of 1 because I'm just evaluating holistically the institution. So that is if you want to go into a deep dive and select your own options of what data you want to evaluate. And I'm going to go back again to the home page. The easiest navigation option is to go into reports. And I'm going to go into reports, and I'm going to go into organization. And in this way of navigating the portal, I still have my institution selected there, and I will be presented with multiple tiles of data. So the first one is documents published according to research areas. The other one is published according to Web of Science categories. The other one is document tile based on number of publications. So the default is the 4 years. So I can be able to delve into a detail of clicking view data, and that this will take me through to the entire to the portal where I can also change the data that I want to evaluate. And then I can look at time cited. So this is number of document produced, time cited, normalization and citation impact. I can look at journal evaluation. I can also look at the topic by word count. And when you hover your mouse over every topic, you'll actually get the number of documents. And there's multiple indicators that I can also look at in terms of researchers, papers. So this is a quick way of looking at the performance of the organization. Next to that, there is a tab on collaboration. So this is still in a tile format. So you can select the tile according to whether you want to look at how your institution is doing, according to the countries or region that it collaborates with, international collaborations, collaborations according to country, as well as subject areas, institution collaborations as well. And this is general institutions, and this is academic institutions. And that tile is on collaboration. The other one is a journal utilization report. Again, this is based on institution. So if I want to see the top journals that I utilized in my institution, I can then delve into top journals. I can also delve into which journals do University of Johannesburg author mostly publish with most frequently, and I can be able to see a publication frequency of journals that are mostly using. Which journals are citing our authors at UJ? Then you can use that data to evaluate a little bit further. And are we citing newer material or older material? So this is quite useful for information specialists or for those that do acquisitions, so that when you apply your acquisition strategy, you take into consideration what is being cited the most and where your authors are also be mostly publishing with, and whether you should be buying archive or most recent materials as well. So colleagues, that's what I had for today. We just really wanted to keep this short, make sure that we just give you an overview of how to navigate on Insights, specifically using the tiles. But if you've got a specific report that you want us to help you with, we are available to help. Today's session was basically just a quick rundown of what are the options of navigations and the type of reports that you can pull on Insights. Thank you very much, Nadia, for arranging. If we don't have any questions, please have a great day further and feel free to reach out to us after the session. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Zanele. Yeah, it was really nice to keep it short and to the point. There is a question. This is for MyOrg subset. What if you don't have MyOrg?
So if you don't have MyOrg, the data set that we can be able to evaluate, or the level of data that we can be able to evaluate, it's only the documents where the authors have cited your institution, right? And it will still be limited because the organizational evaluation won't be based on, let's say, for example, Zanele writes a couple of papers, and by then she was affiliated with the Department of Economics. When she moves to another department, some of the data might not be updated as often as you would want it to be, because it's dependent on whether the author has cited that department or not. So with MyOrg, we set up your institution based on your organizational structures, based on your departments, based on your different faculties and how many authors you've got. And so when we do a MyOrg evaluation, it's much more precise. It is much more authoritative because we will be basing the evaluation on the structures you've presented us as an institution, not ones that we have picked up as cited by your authors only. Okay, so that is the major advantage of having MyOrg. It really assists you in customizing and analyzing on the basis of your existing organizational structures. Thank you. Any other question?
Thanks, Zanele. No further questions. I just want to say thank you for your time and thank you to everybody who joined. We have a session next week on analyzing organizational collaboration, so we'll delve a little bit deeper into that. But as Nanele mentioned, if you want an institution-specific session set up, please do reach out and we'll be happy to set that up for you. Other than that, have a good day further.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Nadia, for
Okay.
arranging.
Bye-bye.
Bye.